a little bit more about you guys and get your feedback and try to make this better every year. Last year we got a lot of feedback. Hey, I'm a branded manufacturer. I want more content for me. I'm an advanced Amazon seller. I want more feedback, content for me. So we've literally been working on content for you over the last 6 months. We've got an all-star lineup of speakers for you today, and we're really excited to walk you through the day. This is called a workshop, and the reason we call it a workshop is we're not just going to sit up here and talk at you guys. We want this to be very interactive. A couple ways it's going to be interactive. Number one, let's use Twitter. So I assume everyone's familiar with the Twitter. We're going to use the hashtag IRCE. I'm Scott Wingo, SCOTWINGO. So if you want to throw an @ScottWingo in there, I'll find it. But I'll be trolling the hashtag IRCEs, looking for any of your questions and try to answer those as we go through the sessions. Also, at the end of every session, we'll try to leave room for Q&A. We do have mics here in the aisle for you to ask questions. We ask that you use the mics so that everyone else in the room can hear your question, and we don't have to repeat it over and over again. Part of the content of this workshop is the Q&A. So a lot of you are probably going to be sitting there and say, I wish someone would ask the question of what happens when someone hijacks my ASIN. Someone's going to ask that question today, and you're going to get an answer to that. We'll probably get asked that one 10 times. So that's part of the interactivity. Then the last session of the day, what we do is, because we want to move through essentially 11 sessions here today and a lot of content, the last session is kind of like an open mic season. So we're going to have all the speakers that are able to come back, and you can ask them specific questions that you didn't get to for their session. Then I'll commit to you, I'll stay here until they turn the lights off and the union guys yank me off here with a hook. So our goal here is to answer every possible question you have. If we don't have answers to your questions, we have a good relationship with Amazon. We'll try to get those. And a lot of times other people in the audience know the answer to the question. So if someone asks a question and I'm stumped and some of the other folks are stumped, feel free, if you have an opinion or an idea on that question, raise your hand. So we want to keep it real interactive. With that, let me jump in. So I'm Scott Wingo, and I'm the Executive Chairman of Channel Advisor. I was one of the founders of Channel Advisor. We started in 2001. We're based out of Research Triangle Park, and we're a software company. And what we do at Channel Advisor is help about 3,000 retailers sell on marketplaces like eBay, Amazon, a bunch of others. We support 47 marketplaces. Then we also help with comparison shopping engines, product listing ads with Google Shopping, and paid search. So because of that, I've spent literally 15 years understanding Amazon and everything they're doing. So that's why I'm the MC here today. Before we get started, I just want to get a show of hands. On the scale of experience of selling or working with Amazon, raise your hand if you're a beginner. Okay, about a third of the audience. How about intermediate? You would kind of consider intermediate. Okay, and then how about advanced? Great, so we have kind of a bell curve. Most of you are in the intermediate, I would say 60%, and then we've got 15% beginners, 15% on the advanced. The good news is I think we have a lot of content for all of you. Another one that's been really interesting, the first year we started this, I asked how many people were branded manufacturers, and like 5 people raised their hand. The second year, almost a third of the room. How about now? How many of you are branded manufacturers? Okay. And this is a really interesting trend. What we're seeing happen from where we sit at Channel Advisor is about 2 years ago, we had all these branded manufacturers come to us and say, I really need help. I'm trying to figure out, for 150 years, I've run my business a certain way and it worked well. And then suddenly it's been turned upside down by the internet and e-commerce and Amazon. Help me understand what's going on there. So we actually have a lot of content for you today around this. The content we have is all around 1P and 3P. And we're going to introduce a lot of vocabulary, so I'm going to say these things a lot just so it kind of sticks in your head if you're one of those beginners. 1P is what we think of as first party, and that's your relationship with Amazon. Amazon is the first party retailer. 3P is where you're on the marketplace. So you'll hear me say 1P, 3P, and it's in a lot of the presentations today to orient you on that. Part of the description of the session is partnering with Amazon or competing with Amazon. How many of you kind of view yourself as competing with Amazon? Okay, good, interesting. I don't have the silver bullet. Everyone always kind of says, what's the silver bullet for competing with Amazon? There's more skeletons along the road that have tried to compete with Amazon than there are heroes that have done it successfully. But along the way, I think you'll get some insights that will at least inform you about what is Amazon doing really well and how can you learn from that. And then at the end, we can share some case studies of companies that have competed against Amazon and won. So as I said, our goal here is to have your brain exploding with everything Amazon by the end of the day. We're going to go through 11 different topics meant to be kind of along that intermediate and advanced side, and we're going to throw a lot of information at you. So let me walk you through the day. This is session 1. You're kind of here. Then session 2, we have Colin Sebastian, who's here to my left, your right. And Colin is one of the top internet analysts out there for Wall Street, and he follows Amazon and is on all their quarterly calls, meets with the company regularly, and understands how they talk to Wall Street, which gives us an interesting perspective of what's going on financially at Amazon, so we can understand the scale that we're dealing with here. Session 3, we're going to jump into a pretty advanced topic, and this is pricing strategies on Amazon. A lot of people have, there's something on Amazon called the buy box, and don't worry, I'm just going to go through the vocabulary here so you can jot these things down. There's the buy box. You'll hear us talk about the buy box a lot. A lot of people kind of say, my strategy on Amazon is to be the lowest price, and that's great, but there's a lot more nuance to that. So we're going to go through what are those nuances. Then we're going to have a little bit of a break. In session 4, we're going to talk about merchandising. Once you just listing your products on Amazon isn't enough. How do you get attention to your products? What are the search terms you should talk about? What are browse nodes? And all these different topics that can help you get a little bit of an edge on your competition for merchandising your products. Next, this is an area that's really interesting. So there's a company called Alibaba in China, and they have several marketplaces. They started out with Taobao and Tmall, and those have been quite popular. The way Alibaba works is they charge a very small take rate or a commission of about 4% on Tmall. Then they have a lot of advertising options. So they give their merchants a whole platform of advertising options. There's a Google-like CPC program, there's a banner ad CPM program, there's even a Groupon coupon kind of promotion engine. And that model has been very successful. And what we're seeing is all the channels, all the marketplaces in the US, eBay and Amazon, are very intrigued by that, and they're doing more and more to give you advertising options. And Amazon has been very active in this. So we have some really kind of breaking news on this around a lot of new options that Amazon has and how to think about those. Should you do them? How do you measure the ROI? And then why is Amazon doing this? Then, session 6, we're going to talk a lot about fulfillment. When you outsource fulfillment to Amazon, it's called FBA. That's another thing you'll hear us say a lot today, FBA. That stands for Fulfillment by Amazon. I get a lot of questions from folks that say, I've spent X million dollars in my warehouse, why would I outsource my fulfillment to Amazon? That's really the wrong way to think about FBA. FBA, at its heart, is an accelerant for your marketplace business. Because your products are Prime eligible, let me put a little star there, a little footnote. The only way to make your third-party products Prime eligible is if you're in Fulfillment by Amazon. Now the star is Amazon, it was leaked to the Wall Street Journal that Amazon is testing something called merchant fulfilled Prime eligible products, where they've gone to certain of their customers that have really good fulfillment. And they've said, hey, you have really good fulfillment, and we think you could honor the Prime promise of free 2-day shipping. We're gonna make your products Prime eligible without being an FBA. So what's fun about working on slides for Amazon is even though we started 6 months ago, we were making changes up until midnight last night because Amazon's always announcing new innovations. Then we're going to talk about lunch. We're going to eat lunch. We'll talk about it too. Then we're going to talk about, for you brand folks, first party versus third party. This is a really tricky question that I'm sure is top of mind for all of you that are branded manufacturers. We're going to take a deep dive on that. Then an important part of how you sell on Amazon is your seller reputation. I talked earlier about the buy box. A lot of people feel like the most important part of owning the buy box is the price of your products. That is one of the most important factors. Another important factor is your seller reputation. The number one reason people call us at Channel Advisor to talk about Amazon is they've been suspended from Amazon. So seller reputation is important for two reasons. Number one, it can determine how your products show up in search results and if you own the buy box. And number two, it can determine your fate. We literally, this is sad, but I literally about once a week get a call from someone that will say, I had a $10 million business, I was Amazon only, I've been suspended, what can you do? And the answer is unfortunately nothing. So a lot of these, if you have a business where over 50% is on Amazon, you need to be very, very aware of your seller reputation. And I would say if you're an executive in that company, I would have literally a 50-inch screen in front of you all the time watching that, because you get one shot at Amazon, and if you're kicked off, you're done. That's also a frequently asked question, and unfortunately, I can head that one off and say there's really not much you can do if you've been kicked off Amazon. Then we'll have another break. And then we're going to go through 5 different strategies, and these are kind of more advanced. So this is for your intermediate people. Your Amazon business is here, and you're trying to figure out what are some things I can do to take it to that next level. So we're going to go through that, and then we're also going to have 2 sessions kind of with that theme. Then we're going to do advanced tactics. Then at the last session, as I mentioned before, and I think it's at 3:45, is where we'll go through all of your open questions from the day. So that's the day. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to get a lot of questions done. If you feel like we're saying some term you don't know, feel free to put it on Twitter, or you You can even email me. I'm just Scott, SCOT, at channelvisor.com. We really want to answer all your questions. So let me just give you a very high-level overview of Amazon. So what do we know about Amazon? Amazon, as Colin will tell you, Amazon's the most secretive company ever, and it drives Wall Street crazy. A lot of you may have seen that Amazon stock shot up earlier this year, and that's because Amazon had a surprise profit. And everyone on Wall Street was like, what the heck? You told us you're going to do this, and then you had this huge surprise profit. Amazon is very, very secretive. A lot of the things they don't tell you, how many Prime users are there? They're very secretive about how many fulfillment centers they have. They've gotten a little more open about that in the last year, but before then, we had to literally do drive-bys and all this kind of stuff to figure out where fulfillment centers were. Another area that they have been quite secretive on or getting more open about is the size of the third-party marketplace. And this is really important to understand as you think about those of you that raise your hand on competing with Amazon. It's really important to understand the power of the third-party marketplace. And I'm going to spend a bunch of my time on that. So what we do know about Amazon is when we look at their revenues, last year they did $89 billion, and they're on track this year to do over $100 million. I have to refer to my Wall Street guy. And so that makes them the #1 online retailer. If you've looked at the IRCE 500 numbers, it's kind of ridiculous. They're so far ahead of everyone. To put it in perspective, Walmart will do about $10 billion this year. So Amazon's 10 times the size of Walmart's online business. If we looked at overall retail in the US, they're #3 from last year. And this year, if they do achieve that kind of 100 million number, which I think is kind of in the bag, then they'll be the #2 retailer, second only behind Walmart. And Colin has some neat stats on Amazon versus Walmart that I don't want to spoil. As of the first quarter, they have 278 million active buyers. This means someone bought something in the last 365 days. That number is growing 16%, which is pretty amazing. A lot of people, since we're in the U.S., you would guess that they're pretty heavy on the U.S. They're about 60% U.S., 34% international. The other thing Amazon's very secretive about is the categories they sell in and how well they're doing. All they will tell you, and this is just because the SEC requires them to give you something, is they break up into 3 categories. They have media, which includes books, music, video games, MP3, Kindle ebooks, things like that. It does not include Kindle readers. It does not include video game consoles, and it does not include TVs and that kind of stuff. That's called media. That's 24% of their business. So a lot of people have this mindset of Amazon's the bookstore. The bookstore part of Amazon's actually the minority now. The other category, which is conveniently named electronics and general merchandise, which we, in slang for that is EGM, the 3-letter acronym, is 70%. What's interesting is I'm going to bet most of you here are not media sellers because most media sellers are out of business. And I'm going to say that most of you actually, that's the part of Amazon that you're most interested in is EGM. They also have this other category that's 6%, and the biggest part of other is their cloud computing division called Amazon Web Services. That's abbreviated AWS. Now, one of the confusing things about talking about Amazon is they also have Amazon Web Store, which is also AWS. So when I say AWS, I will always mean cloud computing. And if I talk about Web Store, I'll say Web Store, just to keep that clear.